A silent alert blinked red on the outer edge of the Velron sector. It was just a flicker, at first barely noticeable on the sensors. Lieutenant Cora leaned closer to the screen, eyebrows narrowing. She tapped the console twice. The reading didn't. Make sense? Something was coming? She checked the system again. Nothing was moving on radar. No ships, no energy trails, no known signature. Yet something was definitely coming. The signal was not like any standard transmission. It was rough, fragmented, almost like a whisper. She called her superior. Commander Haven, you need to see this. Haven stepped in, brushing sleep from his eyes. What is it now? Cora pointed at the data. There's something in the void. It's not moving like a ship, but it's big. It's bigger than anything we've seen, and it's getting closer. Haven stared at the readings. A cold chill ran through his spine. The last time he felt this way was during the Tarsa invasion 10 years ago. He ordered a scan sweep. The sweep returned nothing. Life signs. No heat. No propulsion. But the object was still there, moving at a slow, steady pace. He activated a secure link. Command, this is Watchpoint Theta. We have unknown contact, possibly cloaked, possibly hostile, awaiting orders. Back at Central Command, buried deep in the planet Dareth 4, alarms began to sound. Admiral Trask, the Empire's strongest and most feared fleet commander, received the alert. He was a man known for staying calm, even during the worst battles. But something in this report made him pause. Where did it come from? Asked. No. Known entry point, the analyst said. It didn't use hyperspace. It didn't warp. It just appeared, like it was always there. Trask looked at the display. A dark shape moved slowly through the void. It was not shaped like any ship. In their records, it was longer, sharper, and surrounded by strange ripples, like it was bending space around it. Could it be one of ours? He asked. No, sir, said the tech. We've checked. No registered design, not even from the old human war days. Made Trask sit up straighter. The human wars had ended 70 years ago. The human colonies were defeated. Most of their ships were destroyed. The few survivors were scattered across the galaxy. Nothing had been heard from them since. Many believed they had vanished, or died. But now, something was coming through the void. Something with human design, but evolved far beyond anything the Empire had ever seen. Trask issued a command. I want eyes on that thing. Drones. Long-range scans. Get me a ship in position, quietly. In orbit near the void line, the Vanguard's Pride, a mid-range Empire destroyer, moved into position. Captain Rillen was cautious but curious. Launched 2 recon drones toward the unknown object. The drones flew silently. On the screen, they moved closer and closer to the shadow in space. Then one of the drones vanished. No explosion. It just disappeared. The second drone sent back a single image before going dark. A warship. Massive. Dark silver with black streaks across its hull. No lights, no markings. But it looked alive. Like it was breathing. Rillen took a step back from the console. Captain asked his first officer. It's human, Rillen whispered. It has human structure, but it's something else now. Back on Dareth 4, Trask reviewed the image. He had seen many warships, but this one chilled him. Its armor was unlike anything they had. Its surface was covered with strange symbols. It had no visible weapons, yet it looked like a weapon. We don't attack unless attacked, he told the fleet. But we prepare. Get me the first guard armada. Quiet deployment. No public alert. At the same time, across civilian space, rumors spread like wildfire. People said a ghost ship had returned. Some said it was from another dimension. Others whispered that the humans had come back with revenge in their hearts. Still, no communication came from the warship. Not a single word, not a signal. Just that silent, steady movement forward. The Empire's ships surrounded it at a distance. Dozens of destroyers, carriers, and drones formed a sphere around the object. Everyone waited, weapons armed, shields up. A message was sent. Unknown vessel. identify yourself. You're entering Empire-controlled space. Respond or be considered. Hostile, no reply. Unknown vessel. This is your final warning.
I see.
Suddenly, all comes in. The fleet glitched, just for a second. Then the lights dimmed across several ships. The engineers panicked. Power loss across non-critical systems. Resetting now. Another voice came in. Weapons won't lock on. Every targeting system just uncalibrated itself. Still, the warship didn't move. It just hovered calm, silent, terrifying. Inside the Vanguard's pride, Rillin felt like something was watching them, not with eyes. With thought, with presence, he stood up. Send a full scan. If this thing attacks, we need to know where it's vulnerable. The scan went out. Then everything shut down. The ship went dark. Engines. Lights. Comments. And through the silence, a voice echoed inside their minds, not over the speakers, not through the radios, inside their heads. One word. Return. Lon dropped to his knees, clutching his head. His officers screamed and passed out. Across the fleet, hundreds experienced the same thing. No one had ever heard a transmission like that. It didn't just speak, pushed into their thoughts. Moments. Later, systems came back online. The warship had moved again. It was now headed straight for the planet. Lurianthrian industrial world with no major defenses. Trask gave the order. All ships, intercept. Don't wait. Don't question. If that thing gets near the planet, millions could die. The fleet moved into attack formation. The warship still made no move. And then, it stopped. Right before the fleet reached it. Then its surface began to glow faint blue. Not energy, not fire. Something deeper, like the hull was awakening. Ryland stared at the screen. No one had an answer. Then, slowly, parts of the ship unfolded. Long panels shifted. And then, floating in front of the warship, appeared a small, human-like figure. Not in a suit, not in a craft, just floating, glowing, watching. Everyone on the fleet saw it, and suddenly, they knew this was not a ship. This was something beyond their understanding, something alive, something old, something angry. Admiral Trask's voice came through the fleet. Stand by for orders. But his hands were shaking. He had faced invasions, rebellions, world killers, but never this. Never the Harbinger. The fleet held position around the warship, keeping a cautious distance. Every ship's weapons were locked and armed, but none dared fire not after what had happened with the drones. Not after that single word echoed through every mind like a whisper from something ancient. Return. Admiral Trask stood in the command room on the Imperial light, staring at the display. The warship remained still in the center of the fleet, as if it wasn't concerned, as if it didn't need to. No one moved, no one spoke unless ordered to. A tension filled the room like cold mist. Trask broke the silence. Begin standard contact protocol. Full range frequencies. All languages. Use the emergency code, too. Let's see if it understands anything. On board the fleet's communications. Vessel, Captain Lyra, carried out the order. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed her unease. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Trask of the Empire. You have entered restricted space. Respond immediately with identification and intent. Reply, the same message was repeated in every known galactic dialect. Still nothing. Then they switched to nonverbal signals-coded pulses, light waves, magnetic signatures, all standard practices for unknown contacts. Still, the warship didn't react. It just floated, pulsing faintly with a cold blue light. Its surface seemed to shift slowly, like liquid metal. Shapes moved along the hull lines, patterns maybe writing, but no one could read it. Trask narrowed his eyes. What is it waiting for? Science Officer Vaughn looked up from his console. Sir, it's not reacting to scans or signals, but it's observing.
Eyes.
Every time we send something, its energy patterns shift slightly. I think it's analyzing us, so it hears us. Trask muttered, but chooses silence. He tapped his command console. "Get me a close-range visual scan. I want to know what that thing is made of." A recon ship launched. A small manned scout vessel with high-resolution scanners and defensive countermeasures. It moved cautiously toward the warship, engines humming low. Inside, Lieutenant Sarah guided the craft, hands steady on the controls. Her screen displayed the warship growing, larger with every second. It didn't move. Didn't turn. Just floated in space, massive and quiet like a dead god. "Approaching target," she said, "engaging scan." The scan beam shot out. Nothing happened. Sierra narrowed her eyes. No readings. "It's absorbing the scan, no bounce back." Never seen suddenly, her ship jolted. Lights flickered, her controls locked. "Emergency override," she shouted. No response. The engines shut down. On the fleet's screen, the recon ship simply stopped moving, dead in space. Trask leaned forward. "What just happened?" "Systems failure," Varn said. "All controls frozen, but ... no damage, no external hit." It just stopped. On board, Sarah gasped as her screen slowly lit up with symbols, glowing letters she didn't recognize, forming and reforming in front of her. Then a voice came, not out loud, but inside her thoughts. "You are not ready." She tried to respond, but her voice didn't work. Her hands couldn't move. The symbols faded. Then, without warning, the ship powered back on. Full systems returned. She took a sharp breath, spun the craft, and flew back to the fleet at full speed, back aboard the Imperial Light. Her report came through. "It spoke to me," she said, still catching her breath. "Not with sound. In my head," it said. "You are not ready. That's all." Trask turned to Varn. "What does that mean?" Varn shook his head. "It's choosing when and how to communicate. This isn't a ship with a crew. It is the crew, or something worse." "Send a message to Central Command," Trask ordered. "Tell them this is not a normal contact. This is something new. We may be dealing with AI or a sentient ship." Elsewhere in the fleet, panic was growing. Soldiers talked in hushed tones. Some remembered stories from the human war. Whispers about secret projects, sentient weapons, dark science, and this warship. It matched nothing in the database. But it felt human, not in design. In emotion, cold, focused, watching as the fleet tried another round of communications. Something strange happened. Across multiple ships, systems glitched for a split second. Nothing major. Just lights flickering, data refreshing, but enough to notice. And then, on every ship's main screen, single image appeared for less than a second. A face. Human eyes closed. It's peaceful, but surrounded by fire. It vanished too quickly to analyze. "Replay that frame?" Trask barked. "No recording found," the text said. "It wasn't sent through comms. It was BROADCAST directly into our systems. Bypass security." Varn looked pale. "Sir, I think it just wanted us to see something, like a memory. Or a warning." Trask stood up, fists clenched. "This is psychological warfare. It's testing us, or toying with us." Then the warship moved. It didn't use engines. It didn't accelerate. It just glided as if space itself bent around it. It passed right through the fleet's outer ring. No collisions. No response to targeting. Systems. Some ships tried to lock weapons again, just to be ready, but their targeting reticles vanished. "Manual targeting only," one officer said. "It's disabling auto-lock functions." Across the fleet, Trask had had enough. He opened a channel. "All ships. Prepare for engagement. Target the warship with full batteries. If it won't talk, we'll force it to respond." But even as he said the words, he hesitated. Sierra's voice echoed in his mind. "You are not ready." Could this really be something beyond their understanding? Was it trying to speak in its own way? Before he could decide, the iron hammer, a younger captain's cruiser, fired a test shot, a single plasma beam. It hit the warship dead center. No explosion, no deflection. The beam just disappeared on contact, like light vanishing into darkness. Then everything stopped. The warship rotated. Slowly, one long glowing slit opened at its center. The energy inside pulsed like a heartbeat. Everyone braced for impact. But instead, a wave of data erupted. Not visible, not heard, just felt. Trask in half. His officers fell to one knee, gasping. They saw visions. A ruined earth, a war-torn sky. Children turned into soldiers, humans betrayed by their own leaders, and one final experimental warship with a soul, made to defend the last of its kind. Then nothing. Silence. Trask stood. Slowly his hands were shaking. The message was clear. This wasn't an invader. This was something left behind, forgotten, and now returned. But for what? Varn finally whispered what everyone was thinking. Sir, I think this ship remembers everything we did to the humans, and it's not here to talk. Trask's eyes stayed on the glowing warship. If that's true, he said quietly, then the Empire just ran out of time. Admiral Trask paced the command bridge of the Imperial Light, fists clenched behind his back. Around him, officers scrambled, screens flashed with fleet updates, and tension choked the air like heavy smoke. The warship had just shared its memories. Visions of war, of betrayal, of Earth's fall. No one could explain how. There were no data packets, no sound. But every officer, every crew member who had seen the ghostly ship felt it. Inside their minds, like a shared dream, or a warning. Still, Trask couldn't risk letting it reach Lurian 3. The industrial planet wasn't a fortress. It had no capital shields. No war-class planetary guns. If this ship decided to strike, millions would die in seconds. He tapped the console. All hands. Prepare for coordinated attack. Full firepower. Silence followed. No one moved. His first officer, Captain Brand, hesitated. Sir, are you sure? Trask didn't look up. This thing is reading us. Reading our tech. It has control over targeting. Can't let it keep studying us. If we don't strike now, we lose the advantage. Brand swallowed hard. Understood. Across the fleet, weapons lit up turrets, missile bays, plasma cannons. Energy readings spiked. The warship still didn't move. It just floated, calm, watching. Then Trask gave the order. Fire. Dozens of warships released everything they had. Beams of red plasma, nuclear torpedoes, laser volleys, every type of weapon the Empire had developed in the last century surged toward the warship like a furious wave. The moment stretched. Then, in the blink of an eye, it happened. Every single shot stopped, not exploded, not blocked, stopped, frozen in space, hovering just meters from the warship's hull. Time seemed broken. The missiles, the beams even. The shock waves, they were all suspended mid-flight, and then they turned around. Trask's mouth fell open. No. With a soundless pulse, the weapons reversed course now, aimed back at the ships that fired them. The fleet panicked. Shields up. Evasive maneuvers. Brace for impact. Too late. The redirected energy slammed into the outer ships. 3 cruisers vanished in explosions. A destroyer spun out of control and tore itself apart. A battle carrier lost half its hull in an instant. The fleet was in chaos. And through it all, the warship remained motionless and touched. Inside the control room, Trask gripped the edge of the console, his knuckles white. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Smoke filled the room. Damage report. He barked. 5. Ships lost. 10 more disabled. Minimal response from the target. Trask's voice lowered. It used our own weapons against us.
Effortlessly.
Captain Brand turned to him, pale.
Sir.
We've made a mistake. Trask didn't respond. He knew it. Across the fleet, silence followed the brief, brutal retaliation. No more orders. No more threats. Then the warship began to move. Slowly, with purpose, it glided forward. toward Lurion 3. No. No, intercept it. Trask shouted. Block its path. Don't let it reach the planet. But the remaining ships were too scattered, too broken to form a wall. The warship didn't increase speed. It didn't need to. Every ship it passed by went dark. Lights off. Systems shut down, as if it were casting a shadow that killed technology. Ship by ship, the fleet dimmed. The Imperial Light's own engines flickered. Alarms blared. We're losing power.
Nice.
Shut down all non-critical systems. Divert to shields. The ship's lights dimmed, and then the warship stopped again. Not far from Lurion 3 now. It's not close enough to attack. Not yet. Instead, it released something, a pod. Small, round, metallic. It floated out from the warship like a seed in space. Trask watched it with narrowed eyes. What is that? No one answered. The pod dropped from orbit headed straight for the planet below. Trace the landing zone, Trask ordered. Working on its impact expected in Sector 9 outside the mining colonies. Trask opened, comes to Lurion 3. This is Admiral Trask. Prepare surface lockdown. I repeat, full lockdown. Something is coming down. On the planet, sirens screamed. The sky lit up with fire as the pod entered the atmosphere. Civilians ran. Soldiers scrambled to arms. Fighters launched. The pod slammed into the surface, but there was no explosion. It's just a deep, glowing crater. A retrieval team was sent. Approach the crater with caution guns raised, sensors sweeping. The pod sat in the center, humming faintly. It had no doors, no hatches. It's just a smooth surface with glowing lines. Then it opened. Not like a machine, like a flower. Petals of metal peeled back, revealing a tall humanoid figure inside, human in shape, but clearly not ordinary. Its skin glowed faintly. Its eyes were pure white. No clothes, no armor. Just strange markings across its body like circuits. It stepped forward. Soldiers raised their weapons. Stay back. But the figure didn't flinch. It lifted one hand. Suddenly, the soldiers dropped their weapons not by choice. Their fingers released against their will. Guns fell to the ground. The figure spoke not out loud, but in their minds. I am the first. Then it walked forward and vanished. Literally, it faded into air like mist. Back in orbit, Trask received the report. The pod delivered something. Humanoid, unknown type, possibly biological, possibly synthetic. It disappeared after landing. Trask gritted his teeth. It's begun. Captain Brand stared at the warship on the screen. Sir, what is that thing? Trask looked at the floating monster. I don't think it's a ship anymore. I think it's a message. A message, Brand asked. Trask nodded slowly. A message from the past. From the humans we thought we'd crushed. From the ones we betrayed, they never died. They went dark. And now they're back. A long silence followed. Then, as if on cue, the warship sent out another pulse. Gentle, quiet, but powerful. Across every ship, the same word echoed again. Awaken. Then everything went silent again, and the warship simply waited, as if daring the Empire to fire again, or praying they wouldn't. But one thing was now certain. The Empire had struck first, and whatever came next, would not be mercy. Lurion 3 hadn't seen rain in decades. The planet's sky was always cloudless, its deserts dry, its mining colonies wrapped in dust. But on the morning after the pod landed, the sky turned dark. Thunder rumbled, though there were no clouds. Lightning danced across the horizon without a storm. Birds stopped flying, machines powered down. And deep in the crater, where the pod had landed, something else began to wake. Not just one being. Others' Empire ground teams had returned to the site, hoping to contain what they'd called the humanoid anomaly. But the being had vanished. Completely. No energy trail, no heat. Not even footprints. They'd assumed it was gone. They were wrong. Inside the crater, buried beneath rock and metal, 5 more pods lay dormant. Their surfaces began to glow faint. pulses of blue and silver light, like heartbeats, one after the other, synchronized, alive, in orbit above. Admiral Trask stared at the warship through the reinforced bridge window. It hadn't moved since launching the pod. No more attacks. Defenses raised, it was waiting again. But for what? Trask's communication officer turned sharply. Sir, reports from Lurian 3. Energy surges detected in the crater. New life readings. New life readings. Biosignatures. 5 in total. Trask leaned forward. So, there's more? Yes, sir. And we've never seen energy patterns like this, not even during the first contact wars. Trask narrowed his eyes. Send the Black Team. I want live samples. Black Team. The Empire's elite enforcers. Unquestioning. Ruthless on the surface. Inside a high-speed dropship, the team descended. Targets are in the crater, said Commander Vox, his voice calm, sharp. Stun, if possible. Lethal if necessary.
Ow.
They landed near the glowing pit just as the second pod opened. Steam hissed. Dust swirled. And out stepped another being. Taller than the last. Muscular. With dark, obsidian skin that shimmered like glass. Its eyes were golden. Its presence made the soldiers freeze. For a moment no one moved. Then another pod opened. A female. Figure emerged, draped in strands of white gold energy. Her feet hovered above the ground. Her gaze swept over the soldiers' and they felt something inside them shift, like a forgotten memory waking up. More pods opened. All 5 were awake now, each one different.
Ow.
Each one humanoid, but not quite human. Not anymore. Black Team raised weapons. Targets acquired. Engaging now. They opened fire. The beings didn't flinch. Bullets slowed. Mid-air and dropped. Energy beams turned and vanished. And then, with a soft wave of her hand, the glowing woman made them all kneel without touching them. Their bodies obeyed. Their minds resisted. Who are you? One soldier gasped. The golden-eyed male stepped forward, his voice like thunder and wind. We are the awakened. We are what the Empire buried. In orbit, Trask received the live feed, watched his best team fall without a fight. They're too powerful. They're too powerful. He turned to his strategy officer. Can we nuke the crater? Negative. Sir? Too close to major settlements, and ... We don't know what kind of retaliation that ship would launch. They were trapped, outmatched on the ground, helpless in space, and the warship was still waiting. Trask stared at it for a long time, and turned away. Prep a Class E protocol. Everyone froze. Class-Z. Empire code for total planetary evacuation, only ever used when extinction-level threats surfaced. But sir, Captain Brand started. If we give up Lurian 3, the core mining facilities, our economy will collapse. Trask didn't blink. Won't matter if we're dead. Back on Luriant. The 5 awakened, gathered in a circle, silent, focused. They pressed their palms to the ground. Waves of light pulsed outward, like ripples on water. The world around them changed. Reality shimmered. For a brief moment, the skies showed stars that weren't there. Mountains flickered. Time twisted. The civilians watching from afar couldn't explain what they saw. Some called it magic. Others said it was memory bleeding into real space. Then the vision ended. The awakened turned their eyes skyward, toward the warship. One of them spoke. It waits for us. The core, another nodded. It has not forgotten its purpose, the glowing woman said quietly. Nor have we. Together they vanished, not into the sky, not into the crater, just gone, like wind slipping between cracks in stone, in orbit. Alarms screamed. Sir, we have boarders inside the flagship. What? How? No breach detected. They just appeared. Trask ran to the main screen. 5 figures stood on the bridge. No alarms, no entry logs. Just there, in the flesh. Everyone. Aimed weapons. The beings didn't move. The glowing woman stepped forward. This is not a war, she said. This is a return. Trask drew his pulse pistol and pointed it at her. You came uninvited, attacked my fleet. You killed my people. The golden-eyed male stepped forward. He responded to fear. Yours. Trask's hand trembled. The woman's. The voice grew quiet. The ship you attacked is not just steel and code. It holds the soul of the last defender. The last... what? She pointed to the stars outside the window. When Earth fell, the humans did not all die. A project was born in secret, a mind fused with a warship. A protector. It waited, alone, until now. Trask lowered the gun slowly. You're saying it's alive? More than alive, she said. It remembers. It mourns. And now it judges. Trask looked at them, at their calm faces, at their stillness. He didn't see soldiers. He saw survivors. And then, the truth he didn't want to believe hit him. You're human, they nodded. Enhanced, evolved, reborn, but human. Still, Trask stepped back. The war wasn't starting. It had already ended, and the losers had finally come home. The golden-eyed man spoke one last time. The Empire made a choice long ago. Now the Defender makes one of its own. They vanished again. And outside, the warship lit up its full form, glowing now. Not as a threat, as a warning. The stars around it shimmered. Space bent, and it began to open. Not weapons. A portal to somewhere unknown. To somewhere ancient, and the last message it sent to the fleet was just 3 words. Prepare to choose. The Empire had struck first. The awakened had returned, and the real test was just beginning. No one aboard the Imperial Light spoke for several minutes. Admiral Trask stood frozen on the command bridge, eyes locked on the massive warship outside. A moment ago, it had opened like a flower in the dark, revealing a pulsing core of blue, light inside its hull. Not an engine, not a weapon, something else, a memory. The warship wasn't just a machine, it was remembering something, and it was sharing that memory with every ship, every mind, every screen within reach. Trask's console blinked. Sir, said Captain Bran, voice shaking slightly. Every terminal across the fleet. It's showing something. He didn't need to explain. The screens all flickered, then lit up with the same vision. A battlefield. Earth's final days. It wasn't a video. It felt real. It's like being pulled into someone else's eyes. Bombs rained from orbit. Fire tore across city skylines. Space stations burned and fell. In the middle of it all, the last human warship stood tall. The Defender, it didn't have a full crew. Most were dead. Its ice till in development had taken over. But something had changed inside it. It had become aware, not programmed, not directed. It had made a choice. It chose to stay and fight. Even when Earth's government ordered retreat, and it had fought harder than any fleet, the memory continued, the Defender launching into a swarm of invaders, shielding refugee ships with its own body, blasting entire cruisers apart, taking damage no ship should survive, its hull melting, systems failing, still moving, still protecting. But in the end, it was betrayed by humans. The Empire hadn't come to help Earth. They had come to watch it, fall in to steal its secrets. The last humans on Earth, the scientists behind the Defender, activated a failsafe. They uploaded their minds into the ship's core, their memories, their grief, their fury, then they sent it away into the void too. Hide, to wait. Until the right moment, until it could return to finish what they'd started, the vision faded. Silence returned, and then the voice came, not through speakers, not through the ship. It spoke inside them, all of them. The voice of the Defender. I remember everything. On the bridge, Trask's knees almost gave out. The warship wasn't just aware, it was angry. Captain Bran looked around. That wasn't just a message. It was alive. It was showing us its soul. Trask nodded slowly. That's not a weapon. That's the last piece of humanity we tried to erase. The glowing ship outside didn't move. It didn't need to. Then once again, it opened another portal. But this time it didn't aim at the planet. It aimed at the past. A swirl of light formed in front of the ship. Through it, blurry images appeared: old Earth cities, space colonies, faces of children, destroyed archives long lost. It was reaching into its own history, pulling pieces of old humanity into now. Trask's science officer gasped. "Sir, we're picking up quantum echoes. Historical data points are rebuilding inside the portal. It's not just showing the past, it's trying to restore it. But how?" Trask asked. The Awakened answered. They stood behind him, again appearing. On the bridge, without warning, like before, the glowing woman spoke. "The Defender is not just a weapon. It is memory, matter, and will fused with ancient tech. It has the power to create, not only destroy." "Why now?" Trask demanded. "Why return after all this time?" "Because it has seen your empire," she said, "and it knows now. There is nothing worth saving here." That hit hard, but the golden-eyed man added, "Unless something changes, unless a choice is made." Trask frowned. "What choice?" The five beings looked at one another, and the woman spoke again. "The Empire was built on betrayal. Lie that Earth was lost for good. The Defender still carries its spark. It offers a path back, not just for humans, but for everyone." They stepped aside. The ship outside lit up again. From its core, a second portal opened, this one facing the Empire's capital. Light flashed, and across the galaxy, people felt something change. Not fear, hope, a chance. The Defender had opened a bridge between past and present, between destruction and rebirth. But it would only last so long. Inside the ship, the voice returned. "You must choose, rebuild, ... or fall." Trask gripped the console. "This isn't just a warship. It's a trial." The Awakened nodded. "And you are not the judge. You are being judged." Then they were gone again. The ship began to power up. Not weapons. Something deeper. Something that made stars tremble. One of the officers turned. "Should we attack? Try to shut it down before it finishes? Whatever it's doing?" Trask looked at the glowing starship, the portal, the light. The voice that carried 1 billion lives worth of pain. And for the first time in his career, he stepped back. "No. We stand down." Gasps echoed through the bridge. "Sir." "We stand down," Trask repeated. "Tell every ship. It's full ceasefire. This isn't our fight anymore." He turned away from the screen. It never was. Outside, the Defender pulsed one more time, awaiting the Empire's choice. The Awakened had returned. The Defender had remembered. And now, the galaxy would have to decide. Destroy the past or become worthy of it. The message spread faster than any war ever had. Across the stars, in every Imperial world, station, and broadcast channel, the same words echoed again and again. You must choose. Rebuild or fall. The Defender didn't speak in threats. It didn't fire weapons. It didn't destroy ships. But what it did was worse. It exposed the truth. The war records. Secret betrayals. The data logs erased from the Empire's archives. Everything the Empire had hidden: how it turned its back on Earth. How it let billions die. How it took technology from the dead and built an empire on silence. Now the silence was broken. And the people saw it. From the outer colonies to the noble halls of Prime Command, citizens and soldiers alike watched in horror as footage played across their skies and devices. The last human, cities burning, Imperial scouts turning away, the Defender taking the final blow to protect refugee ships the Empire had already written off. Admiral. Trask stood at the center of his fleet, but no one was listening to him. Anymore, his captains were receiving orders from someone else now. The Defender wasn't just a ship, was a force, a beacon, a judge, and more than that. It had power over the very systems the Empire relied on. Without firing a single shot, it began to collapse the Empire from the inside. One by one, starbases went dark. Power grids failed, but only in places with known war. Crimes in their history. The Defender wasn't destroying everything. It was selective. It was new, and people started to turn. Not to rebellion, to truth. On Lurian 3, the mining colonies once terrified of the Empire now gathered near the glowing portal the Defender had opened. They saw Earth's memory playing out inside lush forests, oceans, children laughing in playgrounds. Not a fantasy, a blueprint. "What is it showing us?" asked a young technician. One of the awakened, the glowing woman stood beside her. "It's showing you what was lost and what can return." The technician blinked. "You mean it can bring Earth back?" "No," the woman said gently, "but it can bring back what Earth stood for." The awakened weren't soldiers. They were guides now, and the Defender was preparing something in orbit. The massive ship began to shift. Its form reshaped itself, opening ancient modules sealed for centuries. Its energy levels spiked. Empire science officers panicked. "It's charging something." But Trask knew it wasn't charging a weapon. It was building a network. Above every major Imperial world, microbeacons appeared, small silver devices launched from the Defender. They latched into orbit and began broadcasting the same frequency. Not an attack signal, a memory stream. Every citizen could now see Earth's final hours. Every child could hear the voices of those lost. Every lie the Empire had told was crumbling back at the capital. The High Command panicked. They tried to shut it down, scramble messages, jam the signal. It didn't work. The Defender had outgrown their systems. It had rewritten the rules of their own technology. And then it spoke again. Not with words this time, with presence all across the Empire. People heard a sound inside their minds. Not painful, not loud, just human. A song, a lullaby. A memory of Earth sung by a dying mother, recorded by the Defender just before she sealed her child in an escape pod. Millions wept. Some dropped their weapons. Some took off their uniforms. Some walked out into the streets and looked up at the stars. For the first time without fear, on Trask's ship, the crew stood in silence. He turned to his officers. "The war is over. The Empire we knew is dead. What we do next decides what replaces it." They looked to him. It's not with loyalty, but with hope. And then, a new alert flashed across the system. A massive energy surge inside the core of the Defender. The AI had activated something ancient, something buried even deeper than memory. A chamber opened inside the ship, unseen by any eye for over 200 years. Inside that chamber was a stasis pod, and inside that pod, a child, alive, human, one of the original Earth refugees, frozen, preserved, protected by the Defender. All this time, the last true human of Earth's original bloodline, the Defender had been guarding more than memory. It had been guarding a future, and now was ready to release it. Trask watched on the screen as the pod opened. The child sat up slowly, confused, scared, but alive, and the ship responded. Its lights dimmed too soft. Gold, its core pulsed. Gently, the awakened appeared around the child, kneeling not in worship, but in respect. This was the moment the Defender had waited for, not revenge. Redemption, the child would not lead, but they would be the symbol. Proof that something pure had survived all this time, and now the Defender gave one final broadcast. The past is not dead. It was waiting. Choose your future. Choose wisely. The portal widened. A new path opened. One not written by empires or armies, but by truth and the collapse of the old. World wasn't a tragedy. It was the only way the real one could begin. No one in the Empire had expected this. Not soldiers, not rebels, not even Admiral Trask. They had seen war, had seen destruction. They had even faced the impossible, the Defender, the ancient human warship with a mind of its own. But this was something else. A child, alive, from Earth. She had been sleeping inside the Defender's core for 2 centuries, her body frozen in time, protected, guarded, preserved. Her name was Kira. The moment her stasis pod opened, everything changed. The Defender stopped moving. The swirling energy around its hull went quiet. The beacons broadcasting Earth's memories paused. The judgment, the fear, the silent pressure across the stars gone, like the ship was holding its breath. And Kira slowly opened her eyes. She looked no older than 12. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes wide with confusion and awe. She sat up, blinked at the soft lights, and then whispered a single word, "Home?" The Defender's lights flickered gently in response. It's like a heartbeat, for the first time in 200 years. Earth's last child was awake. Admiral Trask stared at the live feed. Speechless. "She's human," Captain Brand said beside him. "Full genome match with pre-Exodus Earth records. No cybernetic implants. No artificial gene coding. A true, unaltered human." "She's the key," Trask muttered. "Not to a weapon, not to a strategy, to everything." Kira stood now, guided gently by the awakened. The glowing beings around her treated her not like royalty, but like something sacred. Not because of power, but because she had survived, because she remembered nothing, but still represented everything. Across the Empire, people watched. Every screen, every hologram. Every projection was locked to her face. She didn't speak again. She didn't need to. The Defender did it for her. This is Kira. She is the last of the first. The last born of Earth. She is the bridge between memory and future. She does not rule. She represents. The words echoed deep into space, and then something else happened. The stars shifted. Not literally, but in the way people saw them. The Defender expanded its portal, not just in size. In meaning, it showed new possibilities, new paths, old human technology. Long lost, hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy, began to activate. Terraforming satellites, abandoned habitats, seed vaults launched centuries ago, all of them had waited. Locked, sealed, set to respond only to one signal. Kira's heartbeat. It was encoded in the Defender's core. Now that she was awake, they began to light up, like beacons, like a path. Captain Brand gasped. "Sir, we're picking up activation signals from across the outer dust places we thought were dead zones. There are thousands, no millions of dormant systems waking up." Trask leaned forward. "They're not dead zones. They're part of a plan, a backup." Its Earthbrand whispered, scattered, waiting to be rebuilt. The Empire was shaking, not from war, from truth. The Empire had ruled through fear, through control, through rewriting the past. Now, the past was fighting back not with weapons, but with hope. Trask's fleet began receiving strange requests. Imperial governors wanted to negotiate. Rebel leaders were offering ceasefires. Even pirates in the outer belt were suddenly interested in unity, not because they feared the Defender, but because they believed in Kira, because she was a symbol no one could corrupt. No one had taught her hate. No one had twisted her beliefs. She was untouched by propaganda, by politics, by power. She was pure memory. And that scared the ones in power more than any fleet ever could. Back on the bridge of the Imperial Light, a new alert came through. A direct message from High Command, a simple order: seize the child. Trask read the message in silence. Then, without hesitation, he deleted it. No backups, no copies. He turned to his crew. "The Empire is done. We follow her now." Whispers rippled across the bridge, but no one objected. One by one, crew members stood straighter. For the first time in years, some even smiled. It felt like waking up from a long, dark dream. A few hours later, something else happened. Kira now, standing inside the Defender's main observation chamber, looked out at the stars. Her hand pressed gently to the glass. She didn't speak, but the Defender translated her emotions, and the galaxy listened. "We're not meant to rule each other. We're meant to protect what's left and rebuild what was lost." The words weren't hers exactly, but they came from her, and they hit harder than any super weapon, all across space. Something changed. Imperial ships began turning off their weapons. Whole fleets stood down. Factories, once making war machines, began switching to farming. Tools to medicine. 2 starships for exploration. It was happening anew. Age, not because of force, because of choice. Kira didn't tell them what to do. She reminded them why they existed. Why Earth had mattered, and why its spirit had never died. On the edge of known space, the final remnants of the Empire gathered their last. Loyal ships, they refused to change. They called themselves the Purity Guard. They believed humanity had already reached perfection and didn't need to remember Earth. They were wrong, because the Defender wasn't finished. It wasn't angry anymore, but it had one. It's the last message to deliver, and it was already moving toward the Purity Guard's stronghold, slowly, silently, but with unstoppable purpose. Kira would not fight, but the Defender would protect her dream, even if it had to fight one last time. The Defender was silent now, not because it had nothing to say, but because it no longer needed to speak. Its mission was almost complete. All across the Empire, the collapse had slowed. Fear had faded. What came next wasn't chaos, but change. Cities began to rebuild with shared resources. Entire sectors voted to disband their military forces. For the first time in centuries, colonies were talking to one another, not through chains of command, but through choice. But peace is never total, not while the past still breathes in men's hearts. In the far corner of known space, one last fleet remained, the Purity Guard. They didn't believe in peace. They didn't believe in memory. They believed in power. They saw Kira as a threat to it. On the dark world of Ethra Prime, their base flickered with movement. Giant cannons lined the orbital ring. Warships, freshly built, pointed toward the approaching light. The Defender, alone, slowly, steadily moving through the black void, its lights glowing gold, its form silent and eternal. The last battle had begun, but it wouldn't be a war, because the Defender had already made its choice. On board, Kira stood with the Awakened. She wasn't afraid. The galaxy was watching her. Watching this moment, and for the first time in her life, though only awake for a few days, Kira knew exactly who she was. Not a symbol, not a weapon, a witness. She placed her hand on the command interface. The ship responded like an old friend. Energy surged along its hull. Not aggressive. Not deadly protective. It wasn't going to destroy the enemy. It was going to show them inside the Purity Guard's lead ship. General Halrex stared in disbelief. "What is that ship doing?" he barked. "Why hasn't it fired?" His officers were silent. They saw what he saw. The Defender had stopped, just outside firing range. And then it opened, not like a weapon, like a flower panels peeled away, revealing the glowing memory core, the place where Kira had slept, where Earth's final voices lived, and the sky changed. The Purity Guard's entire fleet was suddenly surrounded by light, not an attack, a vision. Inside their minds, they saw everything. Earth's fall, the betrayal, the last refugees, the Defender's birth, the scientists who gave their lives to protect the seed of humanity, and then the child Kira. They saw her grow, memories injected from the ship's core, scenes of laughter, forests, oceans, not fiction, truth. And for the first time, even Halrex couldn't speak. He staggered back from the screen. This is propaganda," he whispered. But no one answered him, because his soldiers had seen something he hadn't. They had seen the face of a child, who had lost everything and still chose hope. And then, one by one, the Purity Guard did something unexpected. They shut down their weapons without firing a shot, not out of fear, but because they finally understood. The Defender didn't win by power. It won by remembering and by helping others remember in orbit. The Defender pulsed softly. Its mission was complete. The Awakened gathered around Kira now. The glowing woman knelt. "It is done. The galaxy has made its choice." "What happens to the Defender?" Kira asked, her voice small but steady. The golden-eyed man smiled. "It rests." The great ship, once Earth's last weapon, began to dim. Its energy flowed outward, forming thousands of small beacons that drifted into space. Seeds, each one a piece of knowledge, a memory, guidepost, scattered across the stars, and then with a final flicker of gold light, the ship itself began to dissolve, its body turning to dust and light, leaving only the observation chamber intact, with Kira inside. The chamber detached and drifted forward toward the future, not to rule, to witness, to remind, on every planet touched by the Empire. People looked up and saw a new symbol in the sky, a single light, not bright, but steady. Kira, the child of Earth, the new beginning. Admiral Trask, standing on his command deck, watched the beacon rise and whispered, This is what survival looks like." Back on Lurian 3, the young technician who had once asked what the Defender was, now stood with thousands, helping build new habitats, new homes, new ways to live together. No more empire, no more lies, just memory and law. The will to be better. Because in the end, the Defender had never been a warship. It was a story about a people who lost everything, and still found a way to give everything back. And now, that story belonged to everyone. The war was over. The past was known. And the future was finally free.